Hello, guys, and welcome back to Adulting But Not Really. Today's episode is, I think, more serious, but not really. I think it's a more serious type of episode because it does deal with a lot of mental health and my experience with my mental health last year. And I've already mentioned this before, but I dealt with what my therapist categorized it as symptoms of depression last year. I didn't have depression, but I had symptoms of it. And obviously, I struggle with anxiety almost every single day of my life, and I have since I don't even, I think it started in middle school, but I probably had it since I was really little. Obviously, I've learned to cope with it, I've learned to live with it, and I've learned to find ways to calm myself down and relieve the symptoms. I haven't had an anxiety attack since I was in Miami, and that was back in the beginning of January. I left Miami. So it's been quite a few months since I've had an anxiety attack. And it's been quite a few months since I've had a really major anxiety driven moment. I think my anxiety levels have been really good lately, and I've been able to handle them pretty well. Obviously, now it's the end of the school year, and by the end of the school year, I'm always super anxious because I have to move out. I have to find what I'm gonna do over the summer. I have to find out where I'm gonna be putting my stuff over the summer. I have to. This time, I'm actually moving out 4 days before I even leave London, so I'm finding a hotel to stay in for the last few days. Then I have to move. I didn't realize that I literally have to move all of my stuff to my friend's apartment in like a week and a half, so I have to start packing. And I'm moving into a dorm in Boston for 6 weeks with my friend, and I just realized that we don't even have a kitchen, and I'm trying to figure out financials of like, what do I buy, what do I don't, do I want to buy a lot for being in Boston for 6 weeks. So all of the anxiety that comes with that, it's starting to catch up with me. Plus, I'm taking my computer science courses, which give me more anxiety because it's actually been a lot of work and it's actually been a lot of brain power put into that. Um, so it's giving me everything just feels very overwhelming lately, but I'm so proud of myself because I already dealt with so many overwhelming moments of my life that I've learned to deal with them in a healthy way and not to prevent them from overpowering my emotions, and knowing how to take a step back and breathe and understand the situation before it overwhelms me. So I feel like it's been pretty good. And as I was running today, I realized that I was also stressed because my knee is starting to really hurt again and my feet started bleeding lately. So I don't know how to explain it. I have like splinters and they're bleeding, and I had to stop running. And for me, running is a way of, it's like my time where I reflect on life, and it's my time to be outside. And normally London, one thing about London is that, and I'm about to pick a stereotype, it's actually sunny every day, but only from like 7:40 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. and there's the times that I go running. So actually 80% of the time that I go running early in the mornings, I see the sun and I have blue skies, and then it leaves at like 9 or 9:30 a.m. And then the rest of the day will be cloudy and rainy and ugly. But it's been so sad. So instead of going running, I've been going walking at those times. So at least I have that. But yeah, there's still like a lot of things that are like overwhelming me lately, and I have to deal with, and I don't want to deal with, and I'm trying to like put it to the side. Plus, I'm also sick right now. It's just a lot. So as I was like walking slash running this morning, I realized how well I've been dealing with this overwhelming feeling and how to handling my anxiety, knowing that it's getting quote unquote worse lately because there's just so much going on in my life lately. And I thought that it'd be really important for me to make an episode about this because I know for a fact there's so many people out there that struggle with anxiety, and there's so many people out there that struggle with loneliness. And loneliness can trigger depressive. Wait, my voice did something there. Loneliness can trigger depressive thoughts, anxiety thoughts. Sometimes it's driven by anxiety. And that's something that I have a lot of experience with, especially last year. So yeah, and I think it's something that everybody struggles with in their life, and it's a very common thing to feel lonely. And especially now with the power of social media, it's really normal and human for you to feel FOMO sometimes, and like you're missing out on job opportunities or social events, or maybe you're not doing enough with your life. I constantly feel like I should be doing more with my life. I should be putting in more effort into my career. I should be putting in more effort into uni. I should be putting in more effort into seeing more countries or learning more. I constantly feel this pressure that I don't know enough Spanish, or that I don't know enough English, or that I should be learning even more languages. And I took Italian classes this summer in Madrid, and I feel this pressure of like I lost most of what I learned because I haven't had the time to look through my workbook or even practice Italian or even keep going with my Italian classes or even doing Duolingo um, for it. And I feel like I just put so much pressure on myself that I should be doing enough. And sometimes you have to take a step back and appreciate everything that you are doing currently and everything that you're putting effort into. I don't know if that makes sense. Anyways, so going back to the point, um, I think one of the best things that you can do when you're feeling overwhelmed and you're feeling lonely and you're feeling like you're not surrounded by the right people, or maybe you feel like you don't have enough support, or maybe you feel like nobody really understands what's going on right now, one of the best things that you can do is take time, step back, and understand where that feeling is coming from and understand yourself. And one very vital, very, very, very important thing that I think everybody should prioritize is solo days. Solo days, whether they're willingly or whether they're unwillingly, are very, very, very crucial. One, I talked about this in the love episode, but one thing that my therapist used to tell me, because I kept telling her, I was like, I do not like spending time by myself, but I've been forced to do it lately because I don't see, like, my friends are busy or they're doing other stuff that I don't do, or I'm just very out of place. I haven't found my place yet in London. And my therapist last year said to me, like, force yourself to spend time by yourself, because this is actually a gift. This is the universe giving you a gift and telling you this is what you need right now. You need to focus on yourself. You need to spend time by yourself. You need to learn about yourself, because there's so much that you don't know about yourself. And there's so much that can only be learned once you spend time alone by yourself. And then self-love will come when you willingly want to spend time by yourself. And that's something that I've gotten really good at. But obviously, last year I used to force myself to go spend a full Sunday by myself. And I've gotten to a point where I am my own best friend, and I know that I can spend a full day by myself and have fun and enjoy it and not feel like I am a burden or that I'm lonely. And and I think a very important skill is putting one day of the week where you are prioritizing just spending a full day by yourself. Make it a challenge. Sit down, put one day in your calendar where you're just going to be by yourself fully. You're going to go take a walk, then you're going to go to the park, then you're going to get a coffee, then you're going to go, I don't know, take a painting class by yourself. Something where you just spend a full day by yourself within your thoughts. And actually, something really interesting. I like met this person and we were talking about running, and then they were telling me how they run without music and just like within their own thoughts. And I thought that was weird. Like, I personally thought, I was like, that's weird. Like, I go running because of the music. Like, I save new music on my Apple Music because I am so excited to listen to it while I run. I love running for the purpose of listening to music. If there's one thing I love talking about, I love listening to, I just love music with all my heart. Wow. Anyways, that's like a whole other episode. But I thought that was like weird. And they were telling me how, like, no, that's the time for them to reflect. That's the time for them to think about life. And I realized that I avoid self reflection to a certain extent, actually. No, because I do journal every day about my feelings, and I do like to take accountability for what I'm actually feeling and actually listening to what I'm feeling. But most of the time, I try to hide or like divert my thoughts, either by randomly going on trips during the weekend, so I don't have to think about the fact that I'm stressed about something, or going running with music, or going walking always with music, or whenever I take a solo walk, I always need to have headphones on, even if there's nothing playing, because for some reason I feel anxious and I feel weird if I'm not listening to music. And something that I talked about in the anxiety podcast is that I'm constantly, like, one of my remedies, I guess you can say remedies, for anxiety is music. How on my way to school during high school, I always played my chill playlist and I always needed to have music playing to calm me down. And whenever I do anxious activities or activities that are out of the box, when I first started going on solo walks by myself around London, which is a huge city, I always had music playing on because it would distract me of the fact that I'm anxious, that I'm walking by myself around a big city. And whenever I started taking the tube by myself, I always needed to have headphones on at the tube because I thought it's weird if I'm sitting in the tube without headphones just staring at the ceiling. I would feel anxious about it. I would be overthinking the situation, and it made me feel uncomfortable. But then I realized that I have to put myself in uncomfortable positions to be able to grow. There's Yes, it is a remedy for when I'm really anxious, and it does help me so much to listen to music when I'm anxious, and it does divert my thoughts and calm me down. But I think there's so much beauty into putting yourself in uncomfortable situations and letting yourself feel uncomfortable, because that's when growth happens. And that's exactly what I've been prioritizing lately. I actually went running without music for the first time. So that was weird, but somehow it was still therapeutic because I realized how right he was. I was genuinely having thoughts about things that have been hurting me lately, or things that I've been super stressed about, and I hadn't really taken the time to sit down and reflect why they were stressing me out or why they were hurting me, because I constantly I'm constantly putting and overpacking my schedule so I don't have to think about things, or I don't have to think about life, or I don't have to stress about anything. I'm constantly making plans with friends so I don't feel lonely, or I constantly have to put music on while I'm in the house alone. I don't ever sit down in my house by myself without any background noise. I don't ever just sit in silence. And I was listening to Emma Chamberlain's podcast this morning while I was going on a walk because I can't run because my knees. I actually think I have to go to physical therapy. Um, yeah, I should tell that to my parents. There's no way they're gonna hear this for the first time on this podcast. Anyways, I was listening to Emma Chamberlain's podcast this morning, and she was talking about being bored and how whenever she's bored is when she's more creative, and when new projects come around, and when she feels more inspired to do new things. And I realized how right. I've never really noticed that. I have a painting in my room right now that I painted during quarantine. During quarantine, I took that boredness and I created something so beautiful and a hobby that I left behind because I'm not quote unquote bored anymore. And I think that's one of the things that I want to prioritize now, where I want to prioritize being more bored. I want to get back into painting because that is a beautiful painting that I did, and I remember I had so much fun just listening to soft music or listening to podcasts and painting, or just being in silence and painting for hours. I used to edit so many videos. I love video editing, and I did that out of boredness. I was bored. I learned Korean for 4 years. Little hobbies like that. I was so creative. I did so much with my boredness. One summer, one of my favorite summers I ever did, actually in my entire life, was the summer that I stayed in Miami, Florida for most of the summer. And I was so bored that I would go to my dad's office willingly every morning while he was at meetings and doing work. I had a little desk where I would sit down, I would do my summer reading, I would be doing Korean, I would be like my Korean workbook to learn more vocabulary. I would be editing YouTube videos. I would be doing so much random creative work for hours. I would take a lunch break when I would be walking around Coral Gables because the office was in Coral Gables. I'd be walking around Coral Gables. My mom would also be around the area. We would get lunch together, the two of us. We had a favorite bao place that we'd go to, and then I would go back to the office. And then by like 3, 4 p.m., I would be back home. Then I would go to the pool, and I would hang out with friends. And out of boredness, I went with my dad to his office to do work. And I learned so much about myself. I learned so much about what my dad does for work, and also like what his daily routine looks like. I also spent so much quality time with my parents throughout that. I hadn't even realized that until now. One of the things about growing up and being in uni and graduating uni in less than a year, by this time next year I'll already be done with uni for like 3 months already, um, is the stress of finding internships and finding jobs and getting your life together, literally. And I have multiple options. One option is going to the Canary Islands and doing like an internship there, and then another option is going to Barcelona to get an internship there. There's Madrid, and then there's also staying home in Miami. I know for a fact I want to be uncomfortable, so I said no, I'm not gonna stay in Miami. Two, I mean, all options are uncomfortable because I'm not from Barcelona and I'm not from Madrid. I have few friends in both of those cities, but even they have their own trips going on and their own internships and graduations, because most of them are even graduating by the time that I'm there, and they go to uni in other places, so they have to go back to other countries to graduate during the time that I'm there. So it would be putting myself in an uncomfortable position to be going by myself to Barcelona, finding ways to make new friends over there out of just going to work with people that maybe not be my age or my age range. And but I think the most uncomfortable situation that I could put myself through this summer, and I think that's why I want to take it. I think my goal for the rest of 2024 is to always choose the most uncomfortable situation. And the most uncomfortable situation and the most scary situation that I can look at right now is going to the Canary Islands, which is where I'm from, and doing work there July and August. Why is that scary? Because for people listening to this, they're probably like, "Oh, but you just get to be with family." It's because if there's one thing about the Canary Islands, it's that the age range is really high. It's mostly old people there. There's not a lot of young people. Also, I moved out when I was 10. So I don't really have a lot of social life in the Canary Islands of people my age. I don't. And that's the hard truth. I don't. But that's also what happens when you move out. If I stay in Miami for the summer, I have friends. I have people my age range. I would have such a vibing social life. I would be constantly going to dinners, probably to the beach, probably out to parties and stuff like that. But if I go to the Canary Islands, I would have to start from scratch. I would have to live with my uncle and my aunt, which is I love them so much, and I love my little cousins, but they're not my there's no one my age for me to hang out with. There's no one, and I think it would make me so uncomfortable to just be kind of by myself for 2 months, figure out a whole new life there, maybe push myself out of my comfort zone and join like a class on the weekends that I can meet people that have the same interests as me, and maybe are more of my age, and maybe I'll build a tiny little friend group, or not friend group, for friend circle in the island finally after all those years moving out. Like, I generally think I the scariest thing right now is for me to go by myself without my family, because my parents and my brother are going to stay in Miami. Go by myself, live with my uncle and my little cousins, and or maybe even by myself. I don't even know if I would even live with them. I would probably live by myself, maybe literally in an apartment by myself, and see how that goes. That sounds so scary, but it also sounds like the perfect thing that I need to, one, rediscover myself, to focus on what I want and reflecting about my life. Three, getting out of the box, putting myself in a scary, uncomfortable position, and growing as a person and maturing. And I always have my family to fall back on, which is a good cushion there, but also proving to myself that I can move somewhere and start from scratch and make it out okay. One of the scary things about finishing uni and going to an international school is that everybody goes to different cities after they graduate. So it's not, most of my friends that study in Florida, they tell me that they're going to go back to Miami after uni. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it feels like a safer option because you already have friends back where you're going to move back after college. But for me, it's like I know that I don't want to move back to Miami. I'm graduating a year and a half early than most 99% of my friends. And I know that I want to move to either Madrid or Barcelona after uni. And I don't have a cushion to fall on. I maybe have one or two friends in each of those cities, but even those friends might not even be in that city when I move there because they're gonna go to work in another city because they're also an international students at their unis and they don't want to go back home. They want to try something different, just like I want to try something different, which is going to their city. And I want to be able to prove to myself and take out this fear that I have, this inner fear that I have before graduating uni in like less than a year, that I can do it and that it's possible and that it'll be scary the first month, maybe the first two, but it'll be fine and it'll be okay and I'm capable of achieving that by myself. And this gets hold to the point of how being lonely can lead to be self-reliant and having that resilience, which is such a good skill that I've learned after my loneliness episode that I had freshman year of college. That episode led me to knowing that I should always choose myself first. If you have, how do I put this? So if you feel stuck in a friendship that isn't working, but you feel like you can't leave it because you'll be lonely without it, or in a relationship that you're like, if we break up, I'm gonna feel so lonely. Having that being self-reliant and having that resilience of I'm gonna be fine. I know myself, I trust myself, I know that I'm gonna be so happy and fulfilled by myself is so vital for you to not end up in those toxic friendships and those toxic relationships again. Because toxic relationships are, you kind of choose to be in one, but also as a person who found it really hard to get out of one, it was because I didn't have this I wasn't self-reliant yet. I didn't understand that I could be perfectly happy without this person in my life and that I could be perfectly happy without these friendships in my life that were dragging me down. And it wasn't until I was forced to be alone. It wasn't until I was forced to spend Sundays by myself at the park reading that I was forced to spend multiple days of the week going to the gym by myself, going to a new cafe by myself, going to walks by myself, traveling countries by myself, moving to a whole new city by myself. It wasn't until I did that I realized that everything will be fine and that the only person that you have at the end of the day is you. And the only person you should prioritize at all cost is your happiness and you, because that is the person that you're going to be with for the rest of your life, and that should be your own best friend. You should be your own best friend. Now I feel like my own best friend, and it's hard. It takes time to do that. And I will say, not only, I keep saying that if you're feeling lonely, that is a plus. You should appreciate that. You should take it as you should take it as a blessing and has an opportunity to grow and has an opportunity to get to know yourself. And I think it's really vital, especially in your adult life, to get to know yourself and to understand what you want, because then when you end up in a relationship or when you end up being led by other people in your life, you know how to differentiate when you're making a decision for yourself and when you're making a decision for another person. Because I've made the mistake of thinking that I was making a decision for myself that I thought would be best for myself. But once I got out of that relationship, I realized, oh, maybe I was making this decision for them. And that wasn't actually what I wanted. And I thought I was putting, and it wasn't, no shame to that person. It wasn't, they didn't do anything. It was just, I didn't love myself and I didn't appreciate myself enough. And I didn't know myself well enough at that point to understand that that wasn't exactly what I would thrive in and what I really wanted, because I hadn't really sat down and reflected what I wanted out of life and what I was looking for. Now, before getting into, and I think this is when I finish my last relationship or whenever I finish whenever I get into new friendships, I always reflect, am I in the right position? Am I well mentally? Am I in a good place with myself? Because if you enter a relationship with a mindset of you need someone, you need this person to be happy, or there's like, that's what you need to be able to achieve something, it's not going to end well. You're going to develop an emotional reliance in that person. and that's just not pretty. That's just not pretty. So I generally recommend that you spend time to prioritize yourself, learn about yourself, spend some time alone. Prioritize one, make it a challenge once a week, full day from the morning to the night, full by yourself. Take it as a Sunday. In high school, every Sunday, I would not see anyone. Not my boyfriend, not my friends, obviously my family because I lived at home, but it was mostly me. It was me reading my book in my room, me painting in my room, me going to the beach by myself, me going on runs by myself, me watching Netflix by myself. It was me day. And it was so good because I had that self reliance, and I only like I knew that I would. It was like best friend day. Like, let me spend a day with me, with my best friend. Like, I want to spend time with myself and reflect on what's going on this week and how I'm feeling. And again, I'm going back to journaling, but I journal every day. And I think one of the best practices that one can ever do is prioritize reflecting your thoughts and your feelings and understanding what's really going on inside your brain and coming clean about them, even if they're hard to accept those emotions on paper, because that's when you can fully work on them. I every morning on my journal, I don't care how like hurtful it might be, I write it down and I'm like, I think I'm feeling this way and I don't know why I'm feeling this way. I think I fucked up here. The amount of times I'm in my journal, I'm like, I think I messed up. Like, I messed up and this is why I think I messed up and this is how I think I'm going to fix it, or this is how I think I'm going to deal with it. And it's so important to understand that we're human and we make mistakes. And sometimes you mess up as a friend, sometimes you mess up as a partner, sometimes you mess up as a family member, and that's fine. And the first step towards it is accepting it to yourself. You have to accept, I messed up. I messed up, and this is how I'm going to fix it. And this is why I think I messed up in the first place. And this is why we're never going to do it again, because I'm going to accept the fact that that's what led me to mess up. And that was a mess up. And whenever I hurt my friends and I understand, oh my God, maybe I hurt this friend by saying this, or maybe I shouldn't have said that, I apologize to them. And I'm like, hey, I realized that I shouldn't have said that. And that is such a healthy way of growing as a human being, and how to become a better friend and how to become a better partner and family member is so vital to accept when you've messed up to yourself. The first person you should accept your fuck ups is to yourself. And then slowly we'll start the process of everything else. But yeah. And also, again, going home back to the point, apart from also working on yourself and spending time by yourself, speak to people that you trust. I have two or three friends that whenever something is really hurting me in general in life, or whenever I'm feeling lost, or whenever I'm feeling lonely, or whenever I feel like a good cry is about to come, I text them, hey, can I call you? And I just rant. And sometimes all you need is to talk to someone. Sometimes all you need is for them to listen to you. And I have two or three friends that I call and I just tell them, can I rant? And they're like, yes. And I just rant for hours. I'm sorry, I rant for hours. And they just listen to me. And sometimes they'll give me advice, and sometimes they'll just tell me, I'm sorry, that sucks. And then maybe that's all I need. And all I need is to let it all out to someone and for them to validate my feelings. And then I start the process of dealing with whatever happens. But first, I have to talk to someone and let it out. So if you do have that support, whether it's a family member, but whether it's a friend, or whether it's a partner, use it. And please tell them before speaking, tell them, I want your advice, or I just want you to listen. I just need to rant. Because then that's how they know how to help you once you do let it all out. It's really important, because I made the mistake of sometimes I only want people to hear me rant. I just want to rant to someone without hearing their advice at that moment. And obviously when I get their advice, it's just like, like I didn't want that. But communicate that with them first. Communication is so vital, but communicate that with them first before you like trauma dump. Also ask, like, can I trauma dump? Anyway, so that's a part of the point. And for someone who, to end this episode, for someone who is having a hard time dealing with maybe like depressive symptoms or loneliness or anxiety, I really, really do recommend this exercise that I used to do with my journal. Again, I generally think a journal could be your best friend. One exercise that I used to do was write down things, even mundane, little tiny things that made me happy that week or that I'm looking forward to. Last year, before going home for winter break, I was at my lowest mentally, and I wrote an entire list of things that I was looking forward to. And I was like, I'm looking forward to lunch with this girl on Saturday, and I'm looking forward to going on walks, and I'm looking forward to doing going to the beach in a week and a half. I'm looking forward to seeing my friends, and I'm looking forward to. I just kept little things that I didn't know were there, that were positive, were there, and it wasn't until I wrote it down I realized there's so many good things happening to me. Even I went to the gym and I had a really good run, and that made me really happy. And if that's all that happened to that made me happy, then at least take that and appreciate that. And I know sometimes it's really hard to appreciate little things like that, but those little things can truly, truly make you so happy. But yeah, so I think I'm gonna end the episode here. We are 30 minutes. I do want to make a whole other episode about anxiety. I do have an episode about anxiety, but I think I could have gone more in depth with it. So I think that's gonna be another episode that I'll go into it soon. But yeah, thank you so much for listening. I know this was kind of like more serious, and I promise I'm fine. Like I'm so happy, and I'm so excited for Boston, and I'm so excited for Barcelona, and I'm so excited for like just life in general. But I'm just stressed and overwhelmed because it is the end of the school year, and I'm sure people have finals. I have final projects. I have to move out in a week. I haven't started packing. I have to figure out kitchen appliances for Boston, and I also have to figure out flights and a passport and citizenship. I haven't started studying for my American citizenship exam, and I have a love-hate relationship with coding right now. But yeah, have an amazing week, and I'll see you guys next week. Peace out.